Pokemon Sun and Moon feature a ton of brand new Pokemon in Gen 7, but are they good enough to take on the 200 waves of Pokerogue? To find out, we must first pick our starters, and I decided to go with Zeraora, Litten, and Pikipek. Now these three are a very strong core, as Incineroar is broken for obvious reasons, and Zeraora is a mythical despite not many people liking it, and Pikipek was just cheap enough for me to choose. As always, we start off against our rival Ivy, and this time she sends out a Quaxly. This is very good for us, seeing as Zeraora is an electric type, meaning that I should be able to one-shot this Quaxly every single rival fight for the rest of the game. After I take out the Quaxly with a power-up punch, I'm now +2 attack, and Fletchling stands no chance against a single Ice Punch. With that, we take down Ivy, and we keep moving on through our journey. After clearing Wave 15, we got access to the map. The map is an item that lets us choose where we want to go at the end of every 10 waves. We can use this to our benefit by trying to get to the island where most Alolan Pokemon will spawn. Before adding anyone to the team though, we have to blaze through Ivy, which is not a problem, and she really is never a problem to be honest. And we have to take down Erica. Erica is the grass type gym leader, and she's really not that hard to beat. I fight Erica almost every run in this game for some reason, and the result's pretty much the same every time. On Wave 33, we encountered our first Alolan Pokemon, Fomantis. Fomantis is one of those ones that I kind of forget about, but when I see it, I kind of like it, to be honest. And Lurantis is one of those Pokemon that's just really cool that I feel like is underappreciated. So after taking out the Nidorina with a couple Fire Fangs, I was able to catch the Fomantis and add it to our squad. In addition to Fomantis, we also added Toucan into the team after our Trumbeak evolved. This shiny bird looks amazing, and this was actually my first ever shiny that I caught in any Pokemon game. On Wave 36, I ran into this Satanist? I'm really not sure what this person is, but we're just gonna walk away because I'm not trying to deal with any curses or anything like that. Our Torracat evolves into Incineroar, which I guess in a way is us cursing the world in our own way, but I digress. On Wave 57, I encountered an Oricorio, which is the regional bird, other than Trumbeak, for Alola. I caught that and then proceeded on to Wave 60, where we would fight another grass-type gym leader. And just like every other grass-type gym leader in this game, this guy was just a pushover, as Ice Punch took down Applin in just one hit, and another Ice Punch took down Shiftry in one hit. I think you guys are getting a common theme with grass-type trainers here, as Eldegoss also goes down with an Ice Punch before Lombre goes down with a Thunder Punch. And just like that, we secured another win over a gym leader. Shortly after this, we managed to evolve our own grass type, being Fomantis, into Lurantis. And I think that this design is honestly really great, and I kind of think this might be one of my favorite grass types. Moving on, we ran into another Oricorio, and it wanted to give us dancing lessons, but I already had an Oricorio, so I decided to show it our own dance moves. And apparently our dance moves were so great that this bird couldn't help but just join our squad, so now we have two Oricorios. I don't know if that's going to be the greatest thing, but it's certainly not the worst. On Wave 90, it was time for our next gym fight against Misty. Now, this was another one where it was going to be pretty easy, seeing as water types were weak to Zeraora. However, the first two water types that she led with were not weak to Zeraora and managed to take him down in just a few. It's alright though, as we still have Lurantis, the grass type that we just evolved, and I have plenty of experience with Pokemon under my belt, so I go for a Sunny Day. And this Sunny Day was absolutely useless, as Lapras gets to switch in for free and take me to below half with an outspeeding Ice Beam, meaning Lurantis gets taken down in just 2 turns. Not my proudest moment, but I then get to throw an Incineroar and go for a Darkest Lariat, which takes Lantern to about half HP before it eats its Citrus Berry and gets back up to 3/4. I take a Hydro Pump to the face, but thanks to the Sunny Day, I only take about a quarter of my health, meaning I can take down Lantern in the next 2 turns. Misty sends in Golduck, and this wasn't too much of a problem as Golduck isn't really a good Pokemon, and it decides to go for a Rock Smash for whatever reason. I guess we are a Dark type. And I just go for a Darkest Lariat into a Sucker Punch, taking it out in 2 hits. I go for another Darkest Lariat against Starmie, which was able to one-shot it before she throws in her Quagsire. Quagsire meets the exact same fate, going down in just 1 hit, and then Lapras gets sent out, which also goes down in 1 hit, securing us a victory against Misty. With Misty out the way, Brock came to take her vengeance, and against Glamora, I decided to go for a Power-Up Punch, boosting Zeraora's attack just a little bit, before he switches into Steelix and terrestrializing into the Rock type, taking another Power-Up Punch for basically no damage, seeing as Steelix is a physical wall. He then sends in Golem, which I hit with a close combat, taking it down to 1 HP due to Sturdy. I opt to just go for a power-up punch, seeing as it's guaranteed to kill here, and I get an attack bonus in the process. I then close combat Glamora, taking it out in just one hit, activating its toxic debris, meaning if I were to switch into another Pokemon, they would get poisoned on entry. This is okay though, as Salix comes back out and gets close combated into oblivion, taking the big metal snake out in just one hit. Carracosta comes in, and I ran out of close combat, so hopefully Plasma Fist is able to hit the rest of his team, and it just so happens that that's exactly the case, as Plasma Fist was able to one-shot Carracosta and Omastar, followed up by Aerodactyl, guaranteeing us our win against Gym Leader Brock and letting us move on. On Wave 123, I encountered a Wishiwashi, which honestly is another really sick Pokemon from the Alolan region, and I'm just now realizing that Alola has a lot of really good regional Pokemon, and I think I criminally underrated it up to this point. However, I catch the Wishiwashi and end up switching out one of our extra Oricorios because do we really need two of them? And we get the water type our team so desperately needed. On Wave 145, it was time to fight our rival once again, and to start it off, I decided to go for a Terrestrialized Plasma Fist, guaranteeing a KO against Quaquaval. With the Zesty Bird down, I was able to move on to our next Pokemon, Reuniclus. Reuniclus ends up taking a Plasma Fist to the face, doing almost its entire HP bar, but it survived just on about 10% HP, before switching into Volcarona, which instead takes the Plasma Fist, putting it at about 5% HP before healing back up with a Citrus Berry. Ivy keeps playing the switching game and then sends in Pinsir, taking yet again 90% of its HP by a Plasma Fist, and at this point Ivy's entire team is just in a one-shot range, as Pinsir goes down until we get another Plasma Fist. She then sends out her ace, Shiny Rayquaza, and I didn't have too much for this other than Ice Punch, which managed to take 2 of its health bars down, and being able to outspeed, Zeraora hits it with once again another Icy Fist, and Rayquaza goes down in just 2 hits. Talonflame ends up coming in and outspeeding us, hitting us with a Brave Bird, forcing us to use any of our other team members, and at this point I decided I was just going to throw in Wishiwashi because I haven't used it yet. And Wishiwashi comes in and just goes for a Hydro Pump after taking a Brave Bird to the face, and takes out that Brave Bird in just 1 hit. Volcarona comes in and then gets out after getting hit with the Hydro Pump in the face and going down in just 1 turn. Ivy then decides to send in her Reuniclus, but thanks to our schooling, we don't manage to take it down, and we leave Reuniclus on just 1 HP. It's crazy because there's literally no red in Reuniclus' health bar, yet here I am still getting charmed 3 consecutive turns in a row because it did not attack Incineroar until I was -6 attack. But it didn't matter, I had Sucker Punch, and after doing 3 whole damage, I defeated Ivy. There's no rest for the weary though, as just a few waves later, I have to take on the Water-type gym leader Marlon. Now admittedly, we've gotten pretty lucky with our gym trainer encounters because we've only fought in grass and water types, except for the one time we had to fight Brock. But as you guys would probably expect, I was able to take out most of Marlon's team with just Zeraora using Plasma Fist over and over again. Carracosta does manage to use a Razor Shell, getting us below half, which was a bit scary, and we go for a Power-Up Punch that didn't affect Jellicent at all, but it didn't matter, as Plasma Fist was more than enough to take out the big jellyfish in just 1 hit. Huntail gets sent in, and they get sent right back out, taking another Plasma Fist to the face, and at this point, there was really no stopping Zeraora, as it was locked in that Marlon's entire team was falling to the exact same move. And this is just the power of a mythical Pokemon, or maybe it's just the power of using the exact same type for your entire team. I decided to go ahead and teach Incineroar Parting Shot because this is going to be very useful in the future. It was now Wave 180 and it was time for our last gym fight against Crasher Wake. He sends in Dugong first and I go for a Power-Up Punch, taking Quagsire down to about 7/8 of its HP. Knowing that if I stay in I'm likely just going to go down, I send in Toucannon, dodging the Earthquake. I go for a Burning Bulwark, trying to get the burn proc, but he switches into Empoleon, and then doesn't go for a physical attack, meaning I don't get the burn on Empoleon, and Bone Rush ends up hitting 3 times, taking Empoleon to just below half HP. It eats a Citrus Berry, taking itself back above half HP, but I didn't think it mattered too much, as I go for another Power-Up Punch, as Wake decides to send in Quagsire again. Knowing he's going to go for Earthquake, I send in Oricorio, and going for a Hurricane. The Hurricane ends up hitting Empoleon, and we just keep playing the switch game, as Hurricane didn't really do too much damage to Empoleon, so I decided it's probably best if I switch into a different Pokemon. I send in Lurantis, as Empoleon goes for a Confused Bubble Beam, which does end up hitting me, but not for too much damage. Lurantis is a lot slower than I thought though, and didn't even get to land off a single Leaf Blade before going down to a Drill Peck, and I decided to go for close combat on Empoleon as he sends in Quagsire. This did take Quagsire down to about a third HP before Citrus Berry taking it back up to half. I go in with Oricorio again, and knowing it's going to go for Empoleon, there's not much I can do other than go for another Hurricane. Hurricane takes Empoleon down to probably just a few HP points above half, as I go for a Teeter Dance, getting the confusion on Empoleon, before spamming Revelation Dance, hoping that it might just hit itself. That did not happen, as Bubble Beam takes down Oricorio in just 2 hits, but I was free to send in Zeraora, going for a Power-Up Punch, getting Quagsire down just below half, before following up with a close combat, taking it down once and for all. Crusher Wake sends in Floatzel, but I just go for a Plasma Fist, taking it down in 1 hit, probably due to the +1 attack from that Power-Up Punch. Dugong meets the exact same fate, and at this point, Crusher Wake's fate is sealed, as there's nothing he can do against our Plasma Fisting Zeraora. He sends in Gyarados, which also wasn't a problem, as Plasma Fist is 4 times effective against it, and any jolt of electricity is taking that behemoth down. With Empoleon finally falling to a Plasma Fist, we take down Crusher Wake pretty easily. It was now time for the Elite Four, and the first member we are fighting is Crispen. This Fire-type specialist is not exactly the easiest to deal with, as Rotom Heat is a big problem. Not only because of its typing, but because it actually has Miraidon's signature move, Electro Drift. Now, this hit Incineroar for 483 damage with 1 hit, as I go for a Parting Shot, which came in clutch, because it dropped both its attack and special attack by 1 stage. I was able to send in Zeraora, which tanked a Volt Absorb, before getting hit with a Fiery Dance for about a little over half its HP. I decided to go for a Power-Up Punch, predicting a switch, and that's exactly what happened, as Exeggutor gets thrown out, and I take it down with a single Plasma Fist. At this point, I'm really just hoping Zeraora could take down the rest of his team, as I don't really see a way to win outside of this. Skeledirge gets sent in after Magmortar goes down and meets the exact same fate, catching these hands once again. With Skeledirge out the way, Blaziken gets sent in, and let's be honest, we all know what's about to happen to this poor Blaziken. I decided to go for a Plasma Fist, taking it down, and yet again, another 1-hit KO, and Crispen sends in Talonflame. Last time we fought the Talonflame, it outsped us, but apparently we got a little bit faster since the last time that happened, as Plasma Fist was able to outspeed and take it down in 1 hit. With that, Rotom Heat was all that's left, and with a single Power-Up Punch, we took down Crispen once and for all. The next Elite Four member we were fighting was Amarus, and if anyone knows what generation she's from, please let me know, because I have no clue. But Amarus is a Steel-type specialist, which means we're going to use Power-Up Punch quite a lot, and Magnezone goes for a Discharge, just healing up our Zeraora back to full, doing us a nice little favor. I go for another Power-Up Punch, getting us to +2, as Magnezone goes for Ice Beam, dropping us below half HP. But thanks to the Volt Absorb on turn 1, it doesn't really matter, as now we're +2 attack, and we can pretty much sweep the rest of her team as long as we outspeed. I go for a Plasma Fist, knocking out Scizor in just 1 hit, before Metagross gets sent out, and I got a little nervous here, but decided to gamble, as I hit a critical hit with Plasma Fist, taking down Metagross in just 1 turn. Reuniclus gets sent out, but it's not exactly a physical wall as much as a special wall, so we take it out with just 1 Plasma Fist. Empoleon gets sent in, but goes down immediately to a Plasma Fist, matching the same fate with the rest of her team, as Zeraora goes for another Plasma Fist against Skarmory, taking it down to its Sturdy, but it ends up taking itself out using Brave Bird. And just like that, we beat Amarus, getting our 2nd win against the Elite Four. The 3rd gym leader we were facing was Elite Four Lacy, the Fairy-type specialist. Now, to start off this battle, I decided to switch into Incineroar to take down the Whimsicott, because Incineroar probably wasn't going to be too useful after this point. Unluckily for me, she switches into her Primarina, which means Fire Fang did basically nothing before taking our Incineroar down with a single Moonblast. I send in Zeraora, and predicting a switch, I end up going for a Power-Up Punch, which hits Excadrill for super effective damage. However, due to Sturdy, I knew Excadrill was not going to die even if I lose close combat, so I threw in 2 Cannon. I decided to try to go for a Burning Bulwark to try and get a Fire proc on the Excadrill, but I failed the first time around. So then I decided to go for a Bone Rush for whatever reason, and then I go for another Burning Bulwark, and this time I actually do get the burn, but due to a Lumberry, Excadrill just gets rid of it. We go down to a Terra Blast, and now we have to make the decision of who to throw out next. For me, it was between Lurantis and Wishiwashi, and I ended up going with Lurantis. This ends up forcing Lacy to switch into Whimsicott, and she goes off the Moonblast. Moonblast only did about a third of my HP, as I go for a lunge doing about a third of hers. Unfortunately for us, Lurantis is still slow, so we just go down to 3 Moonblasts, but this does leave Whimsicott at 1 HP, allowing us to go into Zero Aura and hitting a power-up punch. This gave us the +1 attack that we needed before hitting Whimsicott again with another power-up punch, giving us a +2 attack stat. At this point, if we didn't sweep the Zero Aura, I really didn't see us winning, so I decided to Terrasilize into the Electric type, giving us an extra bonus to our Plasma Fist attack. Granbull comes in and does drop our attack stat by 1, but that wasn't enough to really matter, as Plasma Fist with Terrasilization was still more than enough to sweep most of the team. Excadrill comes back out, and to my surprise, we actually OHKO it, and at this point, no matter what she sends out, we're just gonna one-shot it. After getting a critical hit on Primarina, we defeated Lacy and were able to move on. Final member of the Elite Four was none other than Drayton, the Dragon-type leader. I started off with a power-up punch against Dragonite because I didn't think it would be able to one-shot me. This ended up working in our favor because he switched into Garchomp, which takes a power-up punch and then Ice Punch to the face. Flygon meets the same exact fate, taking the Ice Punch to the face, one-shotting it, and so does Haxorus. Drayton's next choice is to throw in Sceptile and Terrasilize it into the Dragon-type. This keeps its ice weakness though, which means Ice Punch still one-shots it, taking it down. Archaludon comes in next, and not seeing the one-shot kill with Close Combat, I decided to switch out. Now, if I were to just click Close Combat, this battle would have already been over, but at the time, I just didn't realize it. I send in Lurantis and do end up getting off a lunge, taking its attack down by 1 stage. Archaludon normally isn't a physical attacker, but for some reason this one liked to use Dragon Claw, which made that attack drop pretty useful. Wishiwashi comes in and I use Soak, making it a water type. At this point, I really had nothing else to hit this thing with, so I ended up switching back into Oricorio, just to try to stall and maybe get some confusion off. I end up going with a Hurricane, but I get outsped as Archaludon goes for a Hyper Beam, taking out Oricorio in 1 hit. At this point, I see my chance to go for a power-up punch since it's a recharge turn, and that's exactly what I did. Plasma Fist was able to take Archaludon to half HP before another one takes it out completely. At this point, all I had to do was take out his last Pokemon, Dragonite, and that was all she wrote. Now that the Elite Four is out of the way, of course it's time to fight the champion. Our champion fight was against Kieran, and he sends an Incineroar first, leading with an Intimidate. I end up power punching Ursaluna, which does practically 0 damage as I just got intimidated, so I switch into Oricorio to negate any ground type moves. This ends up working in my favor as I go for Teeterance, which doesn't hit Ursaluna, but it does hit Incineroar on the switch, and after being intimidated, I decided to go for Acrobatics. I don't know why I did that, but you know what, I did. After landing a Hurricane, I get hit by a Flare Blitz, taking me down, but also taking Incineroar down to just 1 HP. At this point, I was looking at my team, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I did know that no matter what I picked, I would take down this Incineroar in just 1 hit. That being said, I sent in Zero Aura, went for a power-up punch, but he ended up sending in Hydropple, meaning that there wasn't really much I could do, as Plasma Fist wasn't going to one-shot this thing. I do get it down to half before taking a Parental Bonded Dragon Pulse, before going for another Close Combat, one-shotting Ursaluna on the switch-in. Kieran was very unlucky this battle, as he just kept switching into things that were just getting body-bagged by Zero Aura. That was until he threw in Terapagos, and I had to switch out because at full HP there was really nothing I could do against this thing. I decided to send in Incineroar and go for a Parting Shot as Poliwrath comes in and takes it instead of Terapagos. This was a bit of a problem, but not too much, as I just end up going for a power-up punch, making it so the next hit is going to do a lot of damage. I go for another power-up punch, doubling my attack before going for a Plasma Fist just in case Poliwrath had something up its sleeve. Terapagos comes back in, and I wasn't really confident I could one-shot this thing, especially with its Terra Shell armor out. I couldn't exactly send in Lurantis because it has not been clutch at all, so I throw in Wishiwashi and take a Flare Blitz on impact. I end up going for a Hydro Pump just to break down the armor, but it actually didn't matter since he actually hit himself with Flare Blitz. I end up going for Soak, and as you guys could probably predict on this point, the next time I throw in a Pokemon, it's going to be Zero Aura. If you were one of the people that predicted that, you were wrong. I actually went with Lurantis and went for Lunge. Lunge is a move that takes down the opposing Pokemon's attack stat by 1 stage. After landing 2 lunges on Dragonite, he was now -2, meaning he did half of his original damage. This wasn't really enough for me though, so I sent in 2 cannon and decided the best thing to do was to go for Feather Dances, dropping his attack by 2 stages in 1 move. Now that Dragonite was -4, I went for 1 more Feather Dance before going for another Burning Bulwark to try to get the burn proc. It didn't work out as he was using special attacks, but I do manage to get a couple of drill packs off, taking Dragonite down to the yellow. 2 cannon does fall to a flamethrower, but at this point it's really not too much of a problem, as I send in Zeraora and go for a power-up punch. This works because I figured he would switch it to Terapagos, and I get the +1 attack close combat, knocking it out in just 1 hit. We weren't exactly home free yet though, as we still have to take down 3 more of Kieran's Pokemon. He ends up sending in Hydrapple, and not seeing a guaranteed kill here, I decided to switch into Incineroar and hope he didn't go for a fighting type move. He ends up going for Parental Bond to Dragon Pulse, which takes Incineroar down to just 33 HP. I decided to go for a Fire Fang just to get some chip and maybe a burn, but I do manage to get his HP down to just half. And now, at this point, if Zeraora can't one-shot everything with Plasma Fists, I simply just lose. With Hydrapple going down and a 1 HP Incineroar coming in, I go for a Power-Up Punch to negate that Intimidate immediately. It is now 1v1 between Zeraora and Dragonite, and with a single Ice Punch, I managed to take Dragonite down and finally defeat Champion Kieran. The final trainer battle of the game was against Ivy, and just like every other fight, she led with her Quaquaval, terrestrializing it into water, and then getting one-shot by our Terra Electric Zeraora. Ivy then decides to send in Volcarona, as I decide to switch into Wishiwashi for a type advantage. I go for the Soak to make Volcarona a water type, that way Zeraora would be effective, but she switches into Rayquaza, and I ended up making this shiny Mega Rayquaza into a water type. Now this wasn't necessarily the worst case scenario, but it wasn't exactly what I had intended. What this does allow though is for me to just start using a bunch of different Pokemon on it and then try to clean it up with Zeraora before sweeping the rest of her team. And that's exactly what I did with 2 cannon after landing a Feather Dance, dropping his attack by 2 stages, and then going for a Burning Bulwark to try to get the burn proc. This does end up working, but Rayquaza is holding 2 Lumberries, which means he just sheds off the burn immediately. Oricorio comes in and then takes a Hyper Voice to the face, but she lived, which means I was going to go for a Teeter Dance, but obviously Mega Rayquaza is much faster than Oricorio, so that actually didn't end up working. I went for another Burning Bulwark, but at this point this Rayquaza is probably only going to be using Hyper Voice as it's a special attack and its regular attack stat is dropped by 2 whole stages. I send in Zeraora to get a Plasma Fist off, which ends up taking Rayquaza's health down by half, as it goes for an Outrage, hitting me for a little under half HP. This means that I was pretty much guaranteed to knock out Rayquaza as long as I just went for a single Power-Up Punch, which is exactly what I did. With Rayquaza confused, but then snaps out of the Lumberry, all I had to do was click Plasma Fist and the big behemoth went down in just a few hits. With the +1 stat from Power Up Punch, I was pretty convinced that a Terra Electric Plasma Fist would be enough to one-shot the rest of Ivy's team, and that is exactly what happened as Reuniclus, Pinsir, and Volcarona all go down to 1 Plasma Fist. This leaves only 1 Pokemon left, being Talonflame, and we outspeed, landing the KO in just 1 hit. And just like that, after 195 consecutive waves, we have made it to basically the final boss of this game. I hope you guys are ready, because I certainly wasn't. This Eternatus fight was by far the longest Eternatus fight that I've ever had playing Pokerogue. I lead it off by sending in Lurantis to take an Eterna Beam, which I thought he would have died from, but you know what, I guess even Lurantis has its moments, as it gets off a Dual Chop, taking down 1 entire health bar of Eternatus, before eventually going down. This had thrown off my plans just a little bit, as I actually planned on sending in Wishiwashi and getting a Soak off before sending in Zeraora, but now I can't do that since Lurantis didn't die on turn 1. So now I have to sack 2 cannon as it does not tank an Eterna Beam, and now I can send in Wishiwashi, getting the Soak off. And at this point, it was pretty much just hope that Zeraora could do enough damage to this Eternatus to take it down before Eternatus just wipes my entire team. Luckily for me, Eternatus ends up Eterna Beaming Wishiwashi, which means I got a free turn of cooldown to send in Zeraora and land a Plasma Fist. I kind of debated going for a Power-Up Punch here, but I wasn't completely certain that Zeraora was going to outspeed this Eternatus, so I just went the safe route. And now at this point, all I really had planned was to just start Plasma Fisting this Eternatus while spamming Parting Shot with Incineroar to lower its attack. To give you guys some reference, I have put this game into 5 times speed just playing it, and now in post-production, I put this in 4 times speed, meaning overall this is in 20 times speed. And you may be thinking, why are you telling me that? You guys will see how long this battle really took. I sat there for probably around 10 minutes doing the exact same rotation of using Plasma Fist with Zeraora, then using Parting Shot with Incineroar before going with Teeter Dance with Oricorio. The plan here was just to pray for crits with Plasma Fist while simultaneously always having Eternatus' attack stat at -6, while confusing it in hopes that it hurts itself instead of attacking us. Now, this plan did eventually work. However, this was one of the longest battles I've ever had with Eternatus over the entire history of me playing Pokerogue. But I must say, it did feel really nice to beat a challenge fair and square, as this was a challenge given to me by one of you guys. So with one last Plasma Fist, we did manage to take down Eternatus and complete the challenge of using only Alolan Pokémon to beat all 200 waves of Pokerogue. And if you guys have enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. And if you guys want to see a challenge done out, please leave a comment and I'll be sure to do what I can to get that done for you. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I hope you have a great day, night, whenever you're watching. And hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Peace.